well-wisher, mentor, guide, Chancellor Dr. G. Viswanathan, Vice President Mr. Shankar Viswanathan, Assistant Vice President Kadambari S. Viswanathan, the Alumni Affairs Director Dr. Elizabeth Rufus, Core Committee Member Mr. Ajay, the newly appointed office bearers who are present here today, Dr. Sir Prakash and Mr. Chokalingam, alumni, friends, family, Mrs. Shankar Viswanathan. Welcome to you all. Thank you for inviting me. As always, I was very enlightened and intrigued by some of the facts that the Chancellor made. He's a man who's always thinking at the next level, thinking at the edge. I spent about 30 years of my life outside the country. And so, though I have not had a chance to interact with him that much, every single interaction I learn something new, I get a different perspective. And I'm very grateful that on multiple occasions he goes out of his way to commend my work and to support my progress in the public sphere. I have attended quite a few educational institutions myself, from school to college to university. And you know, we all have these images of ourselves. I spent so much time on campuses and so little time in the real world, so to speak, that I still see myself as relatively young. I mean, I don't think about it consciously, but in my head, I'm still relatively young. And then I was a bit shocked when I realized that such distinguished-looking gentlemen like Dr. Sir Prakash and Mr. Chokalingam, actually one batch behind me in engineering school. So it was a bit of a wake-up call that I'm also, at least at the age where I should behave distinguished, even if I don't feel so distinguished myself. But alumni associations are very important for all of us. Just by pure coincidence, right before I came here at my house, which is a few hundred meters from here, I was with some fellow alumni of REC Trichy, my batchmates. Some of them I had not seen in 30, 35 years. I graduated batch of 87. So many of us in those days went overseas. I think something like 2/3 or 3/4 of my REC Trichy class ended up overseas. And because of, you know, different locations, cycles, visits, etc., many of us did not see each other. But it was such a joy to reunite with 6 or 7 of us this evening at my house. And though it was a bit of a coincidence today, these events are very common in my life. I always enjoy attending events or getting together informally with my former classmates. It reminds us who we used to be. It keeps us grounded because, you know, once somebody's seen you as a snot-nosed kid in short trousers, it's very hard for you to put on any airs after that. It's not just nostalgia though. Alumni associations provide so many avenues for improvement of yourself, improvement of your society, improvement of your institution, and it all becomes a virtuous cycle. One of the big secrets of the academic world is that brands exist and are as valuable as Coca-Cola or Kodak or whatever else. And so the longer an institution exists and the more public recognition it gets, it becomes a virtuous cycle where it is able to attract better talent because of its brand name and its reputation. Therefore, it increases the likelihood that the alumni will go on to be successful because the input class was already, you know, better than average, shall I say, in the market, in the pool. And when they do better, they add value back to the name of the brand. When they go out and do well in life, it adds value. So this is, of course, the model for all academic institutions, for all universities, which then begs the question, how do you compete? If you start a college only in 1983 or 84, how do you compete with somebody who's been around 50 years, 100 years? Or in the US, for that matter, places like Duke University or NYU, when even as late as the late 80s, when I went to the US, were not considered top tier as they are now. So within a 20, 30-year period, they've been able to take the brand from mid-tier to top of the heap. These are all conscious strategies that people have employed, and most of these strategies have a big component of an alumni relations network. The alumni not only, are good friends to remember old days and to let your hair down, irrespective of what stage you've reached in life. In fact, I'll go as an anecdote. One of the nicest compliments I ever got in my life. I was a senior managing director at Standard Chartered Bank running a global business, and I happened to be in New York for a day or 36 hours for some transaction. Happened to get a couple of hours off one evening and drove out to New Jersey to meet a REC Trichy classmate of mine. And we spent the evening together, and somewhere in the course of the discussion he said, Tyaga, what I really like about you is you're the same guy I met in 1983. I took that as one of the highest compliments of my life. So these are checks that you can tell who you are, what you've become. Of course, not all of us will have smooth sailing in life. So one of the other benefits of an alumni association is that it provides you a safety network. It provides you a network of friends, associates, connections. If you ever run into trouble or you need somebody to pick up the phone and talk to somebody else, or you need a cross-reference or a recommendation. As many people have spoken here, it's also a way for one to give back to the institution that gave you the start, that gave you the brand. Also to collectively give back to society with a group of like-minded people that you've known for a long time. To give back in organized ways, in more small ways, and to generally provide a measure of continuity in your life. The world has become so interconnected now. Many of us will live and work in many countries, travel a lot. The feeling of rootlessness sometimes sets in when you have that much kind of movement. But alumni networks, be they, as the Chancellor said, from his intermediate college onwards, provide you a sense of belonging, and a belonging that is not tied to a location, but to a state of mind and to a community of friends. So I'm very happy to have been invited here today. Just as the Chancellor said, alumni affairs, alumni associations are close to his heart, so are they to mine. I participate actively in many alumni associations, going back all the way to boarding school at least, which I went at the age of 5 or 6 to Ooty. And I know that this is a good initiative, manned by able people, both the Vice President, the Assistant Vice President, also the Director of the office. I know we have very distinguished local office bearers here. I'm sure they'll lead the way and build a sense of camaraderie and fellowship. I know that you will go on to have good events, good times, good relationships. I wish you all the best. I think maybe if not this year, because only a few months, at some point you'll win the Best Chapter Award, I'm sure. I wish you that. And I thank you all for coming and for the opportunity. Thank you.